Did HYBE secretly plan to break Jungkook and Taehyung apart? What Bang Si-hyuk once said may have sparked a wound that never healed, and its resurfacing now. Did it all start with a single decision behind a closed door? Did the deepest fracture in BTS emotional history begin not with an argument, not with jealousy, but with an executive choice so quietly made that the world never knew it was happening? What if the emotional distance fans began to feel between Jungkook and Taehyung over the years wasn't natural at all, but designed? For years, fans have speculated, questioned, and sometimes even fought amongst themselves about the sudden emotional silence that seemed to stretch between the two closest members of BTS. Jungkook and Taehyung, once the most inseparable duo, whose bond looked unbreakable, whose inside jokes defined an entire generation of ARMY content, began to drift. They still performed together, smiled on camera, attended events. But something changed, and no one could quite explain it. Until now, a previously unheard rumor, allegedly linked to an internal strategic meeting at HYBE years ago, has resurfaced, and if it's true, it could change the way fans see everything that happened between them. According to an anonymous individual who claims to have worked closely with senior managers at the time, Bang Si-hyuk once suggested that separating Jungkook and Taehyung would help them grow into stronger solo artists. Not out of malice, not even out of conflict, but out of a calculated business decision rooted in idol psychology and market demand. The alleged quote, "They depend too much on each other. It's beautiful now, but it won't serve their individual futures." That sentence has never been confirmed by HYBE, but it's spreading like wildfire across online communities. And many fans are starting to believe it because it explains too much. It explains the distance, the hesitation, the strange moments during concerts where the warmth was there, but the intimacy wasn't. The shift from brothers to colleagues. Could this have been the first domino? The real emotional earthquake began, fans argue, sometime after the group's massive 2020 global success. Suddenly, the fan content featuring Hyuk interactions slowed. Behind-the-scenes footage felt edited, colder. And though nothing scandalous ever occurred publicly, there was an invisible wall that only longtime followers could feel. And now, in 2025, during BTS' military era and uncertain future, that wall is being questioned like never before. Because Jungkook and Taehyung have not publicly interacted in almost a year, and social media tags. No birthday messages, no subtle acknowledgements, and as much as fans tried to respect their privacy, something about the silence felt unnatural. Manufacture. If Bang Si-hyuk did truly intend to create space between them all along, how much of what we've seen over the past 4 years was real? How much was edited? Encouraged? Forced? The emotional toll of such a decision could be catastrophic behind the scenes. Imagine growing up in the most pressure-cooked industry in the world, with one person who understands your exact pain. Imagine being told, no, advised, that your bond with them might hold you back, that your closeness could limit your brand, that friendship might interfere with solo potential. Would you resist? Or would you obey? And what if one of you agreed, and the other didn't? That could explain the hidden bitterness in the air. The micro-expressions fans freeze-frame during concerts. The unanswered texts ARMYs romanticize into poems. The fact that when Jungkook launched his solo music, Taehyung didn't promote it with even a simple post. And when Taehyung released his visuals, Jungkook was radio silent. Some say it's coincidence. Others, that it's a deliberate code of professional boundaries. But now, with this resurfaced internal strategy rumor, everything is taking on a new, darker tone. Could this be the wound that never healed? One industry insider, whose name remains hidden for their own safety, claimed that Jungkook was emotionally devastated when he first learned of the company's attempt to create creative distance between him and Taehyung. The source claims that while Jungkook is known for his professionalism and drive, he once said privately, "They don't know how much he was my balance. They think breaking us apart will make me stronger. I just feel lost." Whether that quote is real or fiction, it has shaken ARMYs to their core, because now, years later, the impact is undeniable, and it's not just personal. It may be the reason BTS hasn't confirmed their post-military plans. Could the quiet war between personal emotion and corporate vision be the real reason for the group's mysterious future? Could HYBE's ambition, though perhaps well-intentioned, have led to a rift they never expected? And more urgently, if the plan was to grow them individually, did it instead emotionally break them? If Jungkook and Taehyung were manipulated into emotional separation for brand development, then this story isn't just about two men. It's about the darkest side of an industry that sells connection but controls it behind the scenes. The fans are now demanding answers. Social media has exploded with hashtags like #LetThemHeal and #TikeOfTruth, with millions calling on HYBE to respond. Some are even organizing petitions requesting a public reconciliation opportunity. Others are asking for transparency on past contracts, hoping to confirm whether restrictions were indeed placed on member interactions for strategic reasons. And through it all, neither Jungkook nor Taehyung has said a word, which makes their silence feel louder than anything else. So what happens now? Will this story fade away like all the others? Or will this be the first crack in a much bigger wall? Could it trigger a domino effect of revelations? Other members coming forward, other emotional separations coming to light? Or perhaps, just perhaps, could this painful truth lead to a moment of healing? Could Jungkook and Taehyung find their way back to each other? Not for the cameras, but for themselves? Because maybe, just maybe, what began as a business strategy could end with something more powerful than contracts, profits, or even legacy. Maybe it could end with two friends choosing each other again. If it truly was Bang Si-hyuk's decision to isolate the two youngest BTS members for the sake of solo career development, then what responsibility does HYBE hold for the emotional trauma that followed? And is this fracture just the tip of a deeper iceberg the public has never been allowed to see? In a world where every tear, every smile, and every pause is dissected by fans for hidden meaning, Jungkook and Taehyung's emotional distance has felt increasingly difficult to ignore. But now, it doesn't just feel like a falling out. It feels like a choice someone else made for them, a decision that rewrote the course of their friendship. And there's one chilling question that continues to haunt fans. Did HYBE mistake emotional dependency for weakness? Or worse, did they weaponize loyalty for profit? Because Jungkook and Taehyung weren't just friends. They were anchors for each other during the most vulnerable, fame-ridden years of their youth. If that bond was severed by cold strategy, what does that say about how idols are truly treated behind the glittering curtain of the K-pop world? One ARMY post that went viral put it painfully clear. You can break a schedule. You can break a contract. But when you break trust between two people who grew up needing each other, that's not business. That's betrayal. Emotions are running high, and not just from fans. Former HYBE trainees who have remained anonymous are now stepping forward on forums, suggesting that relationship control has always been a quiet part of idol management. One user claimed that certain friendships were discouraged if they began overshadowing group dynamics or promotional goals. Another said they were warned about getting too close to anyone who wasn't in their designated subunit. While these are unconfirmed stories, they're stirring an emotional firestorm that HYBE may no longer be able to ignore. And then there's the silence from Jungkook himself. Known for his brutal honesty when speaking about his feelings, Jungkook has always been transparent with fans, even about pain. He has admitted to burnout. He's cried on stage without trying to hide it. But on this matter, he has said nothing. And the absence of words has become the loudest cry. Insiders speculate that his loyalty to the group, and perhaps to Taehyung, keeps him from ever exposing the full truth. But some fans believe his solo music has already been doing exactly that. In the melancholic lyrics of his songs, in the subtle choices in his music videos, loneliness, longing, and disconnection echo like unresolved shadows. Do you still think about me when no one's watching? One lyric asks. And fans wonder, was that a message? Taehyung, on the other hand, has also changed in his own quiet way. His public demeanor remains composed, confident, almost distant. But he, too, has avoided referencing Jungkook directly for years. And yet, those who knew how close they once were believe there's still pain beneath his silence. In one older interview, when asked about what he missed most from BTS early days, Taehyung hesitated and said softly, "When we didn't have to think." We just felt. That answer is now being revisited with new intensity. What did he mean? Was he referring to Jungkook? Theories are now growing even darker. Some online threads suggest that the distance between the two members was gradually enforced, not through one major event, but through subtle isolation. Rehearsals arranged in separate slots, units reassigned, personal schedules deliberately clashing, and most chillingly, a clause in individual contracts that allegedly advised minimal personal entanglement during solo activities. Again, none of these rumors have been confirmed, but in the court of public opinion, where emotion outweighs evidence, the speculation is rapidly solidifying into belief. And then came the biggest shock of all. An unreleased video, allegedly recorded backstage during one of BTS' last concerts before enlistment, was leaked in fragments. In it, two voices, allegedly Jungkook and Taehyung, can be heard in what seems like a tense exchange. The audio is muffled, distorted, but one line is hauntingly clear. "You didn't even fight for it." Was that Jungkook speaking? Fans who've studied the voice intonations claim it's him. And if that line was directed at Taehyung, then what exactly wasn't fought for? Their bond? Their right to stay close? Or their choice to stay authentic in a system that didn't allow it? There's no context, no video, just a sliver of raw emotion that seems to confirm what many have feared. This isn't just business. It's heartbreak, which brings us to the most pressing question of all. What happens when the wounds of the past finally demand justice? Because the boys are coming back. Military service will soon end, and the industry is watching closely. Will BTS reunite as seven? Will they release new music? Will Jungkook and Taehyung stand side by side on stage again? Or will they stand apart, smiling, waving, but still carrying a silence no song can cover? And what if they've changed so deeply, so painfully, that even reunion can't reverse what's been broken? This is no longer a simple story of two idols drifting apart. This is a case study in the human cost of global stardom. It's a question of how far a company will go to craft an image. And it's a haunting lesson that even in a world obsessed with connection, manipulation can be dressed up as strategy. Fans are demanding accountability. Not just for what may have been done, but for what was lost in the process. Because if Jungkook and Taehyung were casualties of a calculated separation, then BTS, the band whose message was always love, truth, and unity, may be facing its most dangerous contradiction yet, and the clock is ticking. As military discharge dates approach, the possibility of a group reunion grows more real. But is the heart of BTS still whole, or has something irreplaceable already been lost?